So what does it mean in terms of implications for water availability? So one of the things that I said initially was that the lakes need to be desilted from time to time, otherwise its water holding capacity reduces. And that is the case for the entirety of Esarghatta Lake catchment, because we have done the geospatial analysis where October 2022, all the lakes were overflowing. Within a span of 5 months, those lakes are dry. By half, the water spread decreases by half within a span of 5 months. So the water bodies are shallow. When you put trees on it, then removal of the silt becomes a very difficult operation. And that's the reason when I showed the images in the beginning and said, you see water only where those unscientific sand mining or, silt has been excavated for brick making is the only place where the water is standing, unfortunately. That's the only place where you find more than 6 or 8 months of water. Then another implication here is, Tigala Chowdadenahalli Lake in Anekal. Also, this is the image, Google imagery. As you can see, it has eucalyptus, it is acacia on the lake bed. And nobody paid attention to this lake. But then just last year, the government, the Gram Panchayati of Yamare Gram Panchayat in Anekal wrote a letter to the forest department asking them to remove all the trees. And what they said was there's a drinking water shortage because the lake is now not getting filled. We don't have, it's not, the groundwater is not being recharged, and we're losing the surface water. So when we dug into it, we found that the KC Valley KC Valley project, for those who don't know, is the treated wastewater reuse project, where the treated wastewater from the STPs in Bengaluru, especially the next to Belandur and Vartur, is via pipeline is brought into Anekal, and the lakes of Anekal are being filled. And Tigala Chowdadenahalli is one such recipient of treated wastewater. And they wanted to clear the trees so they were, the water could be filled in, and that the water achieved maximum water spread. So this has another angle for me personally, is to say that the government is quite aware that having trees on the lake bed does not make sense. Thus, they are trying to clear when they're filling the KC Valley water. Now, this goes to Esarghatta Lake also. Esarghatta Lake is currently being rejuvenated. The trees are being cut because water from Yettinahole, from Netravati, is being approximately 1 TMC is coming into Esarghatta Lake catchment. So what this tells us is that if it is rainwater, which is freely available, it doesn't matter whether the lakes fill up with that, but if it is a water that where we have spent time, money, and effort to bring from one place to another, then we clear the lakes of the trees. So this sort of is a very conflicting way of approaching the lake management, and especially living in a country where we're so water stressed, and with the at a global level, the safe planetary boundaries of temperature, it might be chemical pollution, nitrogen and phosphorus geochemical cycles, all of these safe boundaries have been breached. So it has to be significant for us. In such context, we are sort of not using the resources that is so close to us, and only giving value to the effort that man has been doing to move water from one place to another, but not for something that's been given to us by nature as rainwater to be filtered, right? Then Sidlagatta Lake is another example in Chikbalapura, where there is massive plantation, and again, as you can see, the periphery of the lake has been encroached. And as a matter of fact, this was spoken of and discussed in Assembly, Karnataka Legislative Assembly in 2018, where the Speaker K.R. Ramesh, Mr. Ramesh Kumar controversially said, get the farmers into the lakes and have them remove all these trees. But then the forest department, comes with the police, and it becomes a problem if you touch those trees. Although under the Karnataka Tree Preservation Act, to remove Prosopis juliflora does not need any permission. But I think as the local villagers told us, the worry is that if they try to cut one Kari Jali, Bellari Jali, then they'll extend to other trees, and the other trees also get cut. So the forest department is very touchy about anybody touching the tree. So as a result, the trees sort of multiply and they occupy. And even BJP's MLA JC Madhuswamy, who was also heading the minor irrigation, also criticized the forest department for the practices. So it's all of this says the government is very well aware of the problem, but no public pressure and public acknowledgement, and that that I know that that sort of a thing has sort of not happened. I think that is something that we are trying to do as part of our efforts here. And again, another conflicting approach to managing water and forest is we all know about the Mekedatu Dam project, and I've been to Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary myself. It's one of my favorite places. It is a magical place. The forests there are just amazing. The river is amazing, and this is one image of that. So we are talking about building a dam and submerging 5,500 hectares of prime forest land. We are going to lose. We don't have a count of how many trees we are going to lose, right? So we want to cut those trees, fill it with water, and bring that water to Bangalore. But then for the lakes that are around Bangalore, we are putting trees where water should be. So this is sort of a contradiction in water management that I find it really very hard to personally digest. Like Hariharan was saying, she's very angry. Yes, such things does make us very, very angry. And then implications for water quality. So these are the images that we took just last month. And as you can see, the trees are rotting in, very little water that is standing out there. And as the trees decompose, it releases carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide dissolves in water and becomes carbonic acid. So the pH of the water changes. Then the turbidity and the water is not so clear, and sunlight doesn't penetrate. So the aquatic life is threatened. And then, of course, as the trees decompose, nitrogen and phosphorus is released, and that leads to a process of eutrophication, which results in very less oxygen in the water, because of which the aquatic life will perish. So these are some of the water quality implications, and I'm sure as Ravalji is making notes, he's going to talk about it a little bit, so I won't touch on it much. I'm also worried that I might say something wrong. So I would just rather not say at all. Ravalji, you will probably take it up from there. So the implications for fishermen. As I said, the water that is standing is just in those areas where the unscientific removal of silt has happened. As you can see, the trees are there. Where the trees are there, there is no siltation that's happening. And plus, for the fishermen, as they themselves have shared, this Bellari Jali, that is the Prosopis juliflora, as the pods fall into the river, it has sort of a toxic effect on the fish, and it disrupts their behavior. And then in discussions with Dr. Ravichandra Reje, and of course, and Dr. Munira will also elaborate on it a little bit if possible, is that as the chemistry of the lake changes, the species and the dormant eggs all have implications for aquatic biodiversity. So what is under the water, what's in the soil is something that we can't see. And in terms of extinction rates, the aquatic life extinction is much, much higher than the terrestrial species extinction. So this is a concern for us. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting from a local problem to an international, the global problem, because they are the same and they're all interconnected. And then in addition to the aquatic biodiversity, I want to talk about this particular case of Ankasamudra. Ankasamudra Lake is very close to maybe half a kilometer as the crow flies to Tungabhadra Reservoir near Hospet, Vijayanagara district. Somewhere in the 1970s, 80s, minor irrigation as we all know, builds a lot of check dams, a lot of check dams. So when those check dams are built, they also reduce the flow into the lakes. So Ankasamudra is one such lake that has been impacted by check dams, and the flow into the lake reduced. And when that happened, the encroachment started, cultivation encroachment, agricultural encroachment started happening. And apparently the forest department, in a bid to protect the lake, started planting Acacia nilotica. So as you can see, the whole lake is full of Acacia nilotica, that is Karijani. And now a lot of birds come, migratory birds come and nest and breed there. And it is Ankasamudra Bird Reserve. It's a Ramsar site. Ramsar site, which is completely based on one tree species, Acacia nilotica, which is invasive. So this is where, it sort of kind of gets confusing when we start to advocate saying remove Acacia nilotica from the lake beds. All of these biodiversity issues, terrestrial biodiversity issues also starts cropping up. And additionally, there's another urban, thinking and the rural thinking. We find that the farmers, when we talk about this problem, are very much aware. They understand the loss of water, both surface and underground, and they live with it. So it's very clear to them that these trees need to be taken out. But versus the urban elite who value biodiversity more than water, it doesn't matter whether the trees and the birds are on the space where water should be, they are for it. They do not want the trees removed. So this is sort of a juggling that is happening here as well. Then, so this is the last slide, conclusion, but I don't want to conclude. I want to hear what everybody thinks in terms of conclusion. What do they think is, can be done? Does this make sense? Is this really a problem? Lakes, definitely one of the comments that we have heard is that lakes have a lot of issues. And, should we be focusing on that? Should we be talking about this? Generally, I just want to hear out what everyone has to say and what do they advocate. What would the solution look like? Should we work with the forest department and kind of put public pressure to remove the trees, not remove the trees? Should we go to NGT? Should we go to the court? Should we build a critical mass of people to talk about these issues? I want to kind of open it up to to everyone and get perspectives here. Thank you, Hariharan. That is the end of the presentation.